fights and keeping people safe when necessary. As we move into game number 2, though, we can see that the majority of the bans have remained the same. The Viego courtesy ban versus LNG was thrown in there, and then the Virus and Yunara makes it into the first round of bans. So we'll get to see what it is that gets picked up this time by LGD.
We also, of course, have the side swap, which was to be expected. I mean, blue side win rate is still sort of a thing, but well, let's see if they can end up making it work as we get the Azir first pick, and then of course the Taliyah as the straight up answer into that. Very interesting. Ooh, I love Wukong. Wukong, Taliyah, I take it any day of the week. I enjoy it. Xin Zhao, of course, still open. Is technically a good matchup. I think Wukong always comes out on top just a tiny little bit in my experience. But I think it's what was to be expected, right? One gets picked, the other one gets picked as well.
And post level 6, it's this jungle matchup for me is the difference between jungle playstyles, where Climber can have impact from level 3. Xiaofang, we're looking at probably level 6 before the Wukong can do something in any lane, really. So, so far this draft has already taken quite a good team fight shape for LNG, where LGD, just by nature of having this Yorick, are now set more towards moving out to that side lane, using the Yorick and the pressure that can generate for you as a way to carry out the rest of these fights, and a way to carry out this game by making pressure on a side lane and trying to draw in a 4-man of LGD. Moving into what we can expect from the rest of the draft, there are obviously a lot of support bans heading onto the screens for the time being. Braum responded to with a Rel, with a Rakan, excuse me. We know that Rel and Alistair are both taken off the board, so Nautilus and Leona are your go-to like engage style picks that you can go for down on that bot side, which we've seen proven to be quite successful. I think that versus a Wukong as well, having the Alistair, or having the Nautilus, excuse me, on LGD side, I'm a little bit disincentivized, because if you hook the Wukong, he can just use the clone to block it.
It's going to be very interesting to see what they pick up for the bot lanes here, with the Nautilus, of course, not only being hovered, but probably also locked in. Wouldn't be surprised. I think it's a good one to secure for yourself. I think my question is what Xavier is going to go into the game with, because his last game was very, very rough. I can see some people wishing for maybe Zeri or Sivir here. Sivir, in the end, is going to be it. Pair it up with the Leona right then and there. Does that make you feel better after that game one that was a little hard, or is it still a roughy McTuff?
It's going to be difficult regardless, and I'd just like to see something a bit more consistent. I mean, we've still got a couple of skill shots in the back pocket for LGD that they're going to need to land, as a Jinx gets picked up for Fish One here. So we are moving into a very teamfight composition for LNG. This is LGD, who have largely done the same. I mean, the late game scaling on both of these sides is pretty big. Whenever you see a Jinx, though, it's all about killing that first target, and I actually really like Jinx Nautilus as a combo, because it means that you can typically CC and blow up one target quite well, whereas LGD have got a very good front to back composition outside of this Yorick. I mean, I think Sasi here is a little bit out of place, and it does augment how LGD are going to look to play these fights, because yes, the Yorick can act as a bit of a front line, but he doesn't really have as much agency. If you were looking for a front line, we could have just taken Sion, we could have just taken Ornn or something like that, and then this LGD comp looks a lot nicer, really. All in all, it does mean that LGD are going to have to probably play more 1-3-1, look on those side lanes with the power of an Azir split push and a Yorick split push, and then when we get to LNG side, they're going to be the ones blow up the first target, snowball the team fight with Fish One on Jinx, and that should be your way to victory.
I gotta say, I think Jinx is such a crazy hyper carry pick, because no matter if she falls behind an early game or not, once she hits those 2 kills in the team fight, she gets excited, you know, she can clean up the entire map. And I think that's definitely something they have to keep in mind on the other side here, especially with Xavier being on a pick that, in my opinion, takes a little bit of time to actually make it into the game. You know, Xavier, relatively slow in the early levels. She does have that shield, you know, she does have the tools to become a very strong champion. But I don't know, I feel like for me the emphasis is on the has to become a strong champion rather than strong from the get-go.
Yeah, Sivir is a champion that just takes quite a while to get to where she's looking to be, and if you can't get there, you don't really have that impact, really, at all.
So let's see who's going to make it work here. LNG, of course, looking for their first win in a series. It would be such an important point for them to, you know, kind of make it back, maybe get into those top 3 spots. And then LGD, on the other hand, they are looking to turn the series around because game 1 definitely didn't go to plan, but it was quite the back and forth. So everything is still possible. Everything is still out in the open. So I'm excited to see where this is gonna go. I honestly, I actually hope we get more carnage than last game because the early game was underwhelming. It was slow. Yeah. Like, what happened there?
You're quite right that I mean, for this game in particular, we're looking at Climber, and I think that this is when LGD have looked maybe their best, is when we're looking at the Zinzao and when we're looking at their jungler to make plays happen early. If we get to level 6 and Climber hasn't at least burned a flash in the mid lane or made some moves to be aggressive on the map, that's when we're going to be a little bit sad and maybe a little bit disappointed, because that's when Xiaofang can start to respond and start to do just as much work.
Chat seems to have a very strong opinion on that one because they decided LGD is going to win. Almost 150,000 channel points invested. Stonks for you guys. Let's hope it pays off. But
that's the power really that comes from having an opponent that is effectively 0 and 5. And
right.
like I said, last time these two teams played one another, it did go to 3 games. We're in the we're in the double round robin now, so we're in the second half of that. So we get to compare the last 2 times these teams played against one another, and it was a similar situation where we went to 3 games. LNG were able to find a match win, but importantly, this was with a different bot lane, right? We had LP and Zhuo in the bot side, but now it's Ovo Fish1 who are, you know, to all intents and purposes, the better fit for LNG. It's what they've found either more scrim success with, what they deem appropriate. They are currently looking like a decent enough bot lane duo. I mean, the Kai's performance in game 1 wasn't inspiring by Fish1. It didn't take over, but it did the job that it needed to. And I think that this is going to be a real litmus test for LNG because this is a jinx. This is where, or a champion that you have to take over with.
Yeah, I completely agree. I completely agree. I'm also looking at Zika as well a little bit because I feel like Renekton as well can be a very strong pick, as we can see the first engage is coming through here on the spot lane. OVO has to be a bit careful. Fish1 trying to trade something back here against YCX, but nothing too crazy going on.
Leona's just so crazy that trying to trade into Eclipse is just never going to be beneficial for you. So
yeah.
Early trades looking like they are going the way of LGD. And I will point out as well that Savior going for a bit of a callback in the bot lane here. He's going for the Summoner Heal. As we do see a split map, and now LNG with this wave getting crashed under their turret, they're going to be under fire.
Yeah, definitely. They're looking to get something down. Fish1 has to use the cleanse, and the flash will end up going down anyways. That's the first blood coming through for the Sivir here, but they will trade one back, as you just said. TP coming in now as well. And now with Haichao in the area, I think they should be fine. Maybe you can look to go for more.
For LGD, they will absolutely take that. They lose their support in favor of taking down the enemy AD carry, making sure that Fish1 loses out on that massive wave under the turret. He's going to get maybe 4 creeps in the mid lane. Experience for all 5, yeah. So he gets a bit of a wave, but he would have been much happier to take his own bot lane wave and be in a good position in that respect. So a big win, and you can see as well with First Blood going over to Savior that now the LGD AD carry has got an opportunity to, I'll say, redeem himself after game 1.
Yeah, game 1 definitely was a roughie. Not really a lot he was able to do there. We can see a little bit of a lane swap for the moment, but of course it's going to be swapped back as we speak. With, of course, Fish1 OVO moving back down towards the bot lane. Drake now also on the map. Hasn't really been too interesting in the first few minutes of the last game, so I don't expect anyone to really go for that Drake super early on. I think prior towards Void Grubs is going to be a little bit more important again, so let's see who's going to take their attention towards that instead.
And again, when we're looking at our junglers for their impact, right? Climber already, you know, we asked for pre-level 6 action. He completes his full clear, he moves down to the bot side, he dives in the bot lane. And now Xiaofang, I think that trying to do this onto level 5 versus level 6 time, and it's very small here. Sasi is going to ding 6 on like a couple of melee creeps. So LNG need to go immediately.
Yeah, and they are doing so. Zika now moving in. He has to place the cage. Still not level 6 though, and now we're going in with the Dominus. Flash out being used. They're tanking a bit of turret aggro here, but Zika should make it out just fine. The clone, of course, used as well. And therefore, that's a nice kill on that top lane. Going over to the Wukong. You take those for sure.
And again, you look at the wave that's being lost. Sasa, no TP here. He's going to lose out on, you know, 2.5 waves, but look at bot side.
They are going for it again. Fish one has to be careful. No flash, no cleanse. But Climber actually has to stay away a little bit as now OVO is moving forward. Tries to find a little bit of a route, but Fish one ends up going down. Now the question is, who's taking the turret? No one. They actually make it out alive, all 3 of them.
It looks incredibly botched, but fortunately enough, YCX able to take aggro the second time round. And once again, take down this Jinx. No summoner spells for Fish one. Anytime that a wave gets crashed again, Leona early game is crazy. She can just tank the turret for so long. And even though it's Savior who tanks it the first time round and they have to reset, they have to go again for the dive, it becomes even easier when they find that dive the second time round. And we can see that the advantages are getting larger and larger down in that bot side. Savior goes back to base, picks up a 50 CS cull, which is incredible to me that you'd buy a cull so late into the game, but he knows that his game is going to be quite easy from here on, and he's got the time and he's actually got the gold lead to take this pit stop without making it difficult at all for him to be relevant in this early to mid game.
And we can also see a few lane swaps coming through right now as Fish one has of course moved up towards the top lane, and on the side of LGD they have swapped their bot lane towards the mid lane. So everything is getting a little funky here. They are of course preparing to move towards these void grubs, trying to create some numbers advantages there. But both junglers are still not too close to that area, with the grub is of course only spawning in a few seconds. YCX, are you looking for something? Not really.
Just doing a little wander, just making sure that everything's as it should be. As Fish one seems to have found himself a comfortable home for the time being where they can farm up quite safely, and the lanes do look a little bit goofy right now as Xiaofang fancies YCX.
Oh no, the hook went too wide! And that did not end up working out. Oh, that hook, that hurt my feelings, that hook. That just, ugh. That was uncomfortable to watch. You know, one void grub going over to Climber.
And now they've got to try and re-engage the OVO, maybe a little bit split actually.
Yeah, he's able to tank quite a bit of damage just fine. Also Haichao, of course, making it work there, zoning everyone else away. So they end up trading void grubs a little bit. 1 grubby going over to LGD and 2 going over to LNG, which is fine. You deny the stack for the feats of strength, right? So that's okay. Overall, could have gone worse, could have gone better for either side, I would say.
Yeah, and I think that LGD will still be taking this as a, not an outright loss. We saw XQW take a plate down on that bot side, so he's getting gold on the Azir, right? A little bit of free time for the Azir to farm up is always going to be good. Again, reminder that we expect this LGD composition to be okay in a 5 versus 5, but really thrive in that side lane split push aspect. With a Yorick, with an Azir, they can look for these side lane plays. But I think that with Azir Sivir, you can just always team fight. Like, as long as the Yorick is a body, he just needs to buy a little bit of time for the 2 DPS threats to pump out damage later on. And with the Jinx being so far behind as well, and with Fish one being forced almost into this Kraken Slayer build path, the Jinx is going to take a long time to get online as well.
Waves being pushed out on the spot lane. Drake's still not of any interest. But we are, of course, kind of wondering who will have the upper hand here in this game. 10 minutes in, no crazy shenanigans. Gold is almost dead even, 2 kills each. So I think everything is still unclear. I gotta say though, XQW, because you just mentioned the split push, last game for me had such an amazing impact on the side lane. And I think that's something he can easily replicate on this pick, you know, on the Azir. So that's definitely something to look out, especially because I'm not sure how well you can match it in this scenario on the side of LNG. Last game they did have an easy time matching it with the Rumble and the 3 Void Grubs. I think this game it might be just a tiny bit harder.
And I think importantly, you know, in terms of answering that split push, we could look to Zika to maybe do it. But, you know, he's going to struggle versus an Azir. You know, you slice and dice onto the Azir and then you get shuffled away and all of a sudden all of your gap close capability is removed. But for a positive for LNG, we look at the top side of their rift, right? LNG, 10 CS up, 400 gold to the good, and actually looks like they're able to start this dragon. I don't know that they'll be able to get away with it as easily as they think with a contest from LGD here.
Hook connect onto YCX as the solar flare now is coming through. The Drake is down, it's going over to LNG, but here's the question. Can they win the fight as well? It's looking good, but the kill's going over to OVO. He's trying to get something done here as the ultimate flashed by Haichao, and therefore no one ends up dying on the side of LNG. They secure the Drake, they secure the Field of Warfare. It's a decent start, I take it.
They are pushed back, so they're gonna not have opportunity to push any further forward, but a kill and a dragon and they don't lose anything for it. It's a very good play by LNG to get themselves that little bit of gold. Yes, like you mentioned, it falls onto OVO quite unfortunately, but it's a little bit more gold, shared assist gold as well between the squad. And despite all of that, a lot of flashes from LNG as well, and this is the power of having had a relatively slow early game. So the Jinx is already excited for this fight because it helps take down the dragon. Unfortunately, Fish1 slowed on DPS here because he gets knocked by Haichao's wall, but he actually baits in the Xin Zhao, and then as soon as the swoop comes through from XQW, double flash from the mid jungle duo means that they are absolutely safe, and effectively XQW flashes in for no reward. It is a little bit of an advantage that goes the way of LNG.
I love how LNG just thought, you know, we're getting in a new support in OVO, but actually they got a new carry. That's the 2-0 Nautilus for you guys right there. That's the new carry of the team. Has just arrived. But yeah, the gold lead hasn't exploded yet anyways. You know, it's still completely even. Nothing crazy happening.
Yeah, quite a slow pace for us so far. Flash for flash.
Ouch. Yeah, flash for flash is good. The hook though might be similarly painful as the public executions of last game, but they are looking to go for a 4-man dive here. They are throwing back themselves to the fish one with a very nice Mega Death Rocket coming through from the downside of the map. Another hook missed. Yes, we love to see it. We can make a compilation out of that one as we're now going in with the Cyclone. Crescent Guard buying some time, but the damage output is huge. Now they have to be a bit careful. Have to step back a little bit, but Savior ends up going down as well. They will take OVO with them, but still.
LNG are looking like a massive fight under the turret. They got 4 for 1. They lose OVO, who honestly deserves to die for missing those hooks under the turret, and he'll, you know, think better of his throwing his skill shots next time round. They even pick up first turret. Zika's able to get down on the spot side and catch this wave. Might even defend the tier 1 turret for the time being. And a lot of gold going into all of the carries of LNG as Sasi just takes a massive chunk. Haichao takes into half HP before the dive even happens, and they realize actually we can kind of 2v1 this on the side and find a double underneath the turret afterwards. Savior tries to get in here to try and save the day, but ends up just throwing himself away as well. As YCX flashes on top of Haichao to try and keep the Talia rooted under the turret, but again, the entire time, Fish1 is free firing, and Kraken Slayer's finished for the Jinx now, so we've hit that crucial 1-item spike and can actually deal DPS in these fights. Big win for the LNG side, and working their way quite quickly, it feels like, toward a 2-0 victory.
Well, let's not jinx it. You know, I'm going to be very careful with saying that, because the caster curse is real. It happened too many times before, so I'm just not gonna say anything about that. But it's looking good for the moment. Let's put it like that. They have gotten themselves a tiny little gold lead. 2k. I mean, it's not that tiny actually. Now that I think about it, that's a good lead for the first 15 minutes. You definitely take those.
And importantly, if LNG keep on deathballing, I do think that they'll be in a pretty good spot to to take this game, right? They've got a Jinx who's, you know, not quite ahead of the curve, but is not keeping herself, is no longer as far behind as she was previously, and for the time being as well, seems to be in a good position in these team fights to be able to keep herself alive and to be able to contribute to these fights. And with the positioning of Xiaofang as well, I think on this Wukong, who's been really instrumental in finding LNG's lead so far, I do think that the buying of space and keeping Fish One alive has proven to be a successful venture for LNG, as they did take that Rift Herald uncontested. They're now going to look to maybe place this in the mid lane or try to find Savior as he steps up to try and clear the wave. But with the Dragon spawning in 20 seconds, LNG have got their eyes set on not just the first neutral objective on the top side, but this one down on the bot side as well. As getting a second Dragon would be very good for them to all begin that stacking process and put them at 2-0.
Mid lane turret, of course, still extremely healthy here for the side of LGD, so maybe with the help of the Herald, you know, forcing some pressure onto the map, that would be ideal. We can see Xiaofang still in his jungle, still occupied. It's now moving towards the river. And I do like, however, the chat also mentioning the scaling factor on the side of LGD, because there is still a world in which after, you know, let's say the 20-30 minute mark, this whole thing can swing around. The Zika is now getting engaged underneath the top lane turret, maybe Super Mega Death Rocket going just wide, but ends up zoning LGD anyways, and therefore, once more, uncontested objective for LNG, because LGD are too busy looking for something on the other side of the map. I'm not sure I like that.
Importantly, I like the idea that they're trying to make a play on the other side of the map. What I don't like is that they didn't go for anything. They walked up to the top side, realized, I guess, sort of evaluated that there was the Renekton under the turret, and then decided, actually, no, we don't want to go for this, where that effectively just means that they've got some good vision on top side, and that's about it. They were sharing experience in the mid lane as well, so XQW and Savior don't get as much of a leg up as they could have done into the game, and that really just means that they don't get anything, and the LNG are actually just pushing themselves ahead by not just the gold, but also now in those intangibles by securing the Dragon, securing a couple of grubs. They've got the Rift Herald as well, which Xiaofang has been constantly posturing around this top side of mid lane to try and put it down. But now with LNG, with a little bit more focus between the mid lane as well, might expect to see them put it down now and try to make a bit of a siege play.
We're getting the Formula 1 Herald. Yeah, let's see if we have a good driver here. It's looking good. Hits just where it's supposed to. Has to flash out of the Solar Flare though. Turret doesn't end up going down. They don't have enough Void Grubs, of course, and now the clone is the one being found. But they're going forward. Climber has to use the Crescent Guard, but we can also see the ultimates being used from other members of the team. But there's not really anything coming of it. So
yeah, on the hunt,
it's really just...
Now there's not as much in the tank for LGD. Still got that Emperor's Divide, but fighting down on the bot side as well. In the picture-in-picture, Sasi trading heavily with Zika. He might be the focus.
Xiaofang stepping forwards, does still have the Cyclone available. Won't end up using it as, of course, the cage is kind of blocking it. But they're looking to pick up another turret here, which I think is still fine. You know, still get something out of everything you just invested. So I think on the side of LNG, you're still comfortable.
They'll still be fine, and they, you know, make a proactive play. They're going to take a turret down on that bot side. XQW teleported back from, also he recalled mid lane, teleports out to the top side, knowing that he's going to have a window to get this tier 1 turret on the top side. And I think that for LGD, we've highlighted that their scaling in this game is going to be present. They've got the Azir, they've got the Sivir to do that. But XQW is getting a lot of gold. He's getting a lot of the resources. He got the tier 1 turret down on bot side. He's now TP top lane to get that tier 1 turret as well. And we look at the individual gold disparity. Yes, he's only 15 CS ahead, but he's actually 600 gold to the good. And it's in owing to those turrets and to the structural gold that he's been able to find as well.
Definitely one of the factors to look at when we come to the later stages of the game. Azir, of course, known to be one of the best scaling picks when we look towards the mid lane. But we can see the wave clear coming through from Savior here is also very, very decent. So definitely something to not underestimate.
Yeah, Siva's ability to farm is pretty mental, like just going into camps and taking them out in the blink of an eye, same thing for a wave. So finding gold on these carries is really easy, and it's about whether or not they can leverage that in these team fights. We already saw that the ability for LNG to buy space actually was pretty good as Climber engages onto Xiaofang, and just Flame Chompers alone pretty much isolate the Xin Zhao. And now Fish One sat with that Phantom Dancer as well, 2 items on the Jinx, he's got a ton of attack speed. Now actually just needs to start building up some AD.
Oh, VO, you're making me scared. With the Solar Flare coming through, doesn't quite hit the target, but now we get the Depth Charge coming through onto Savior. And the question is, can they actually do something? OVO stays alive. But here come the minions. The ghouls are in. Don't end up actually getting the kill. And we see another fight where they invest a lot, but don't actually end up getting any kills. With the wave coming in, maybe LNG. But they step too far forward. Doesn't look like it. They're moving away.
Yeah, 45 seconds. Drake. Exactly, on this Dragon. OVO maybe a little bit more nervous for this game than he was on the Alistair. You can't, you know, it's not a skill shot, the headbutt pulverized combo, it's a timing thing, whereas this time on the Nautilus is hand and the mouse aim not quite as on point as we might have liked. And the fact that he was able to live there, honestly, I'm very surprised by, but a combination of block it plus W does keep the Nautilus up and alive in that situation. Whereas now, LNG playing a bit of a game here. Are they going top side? Are they going to go bot side? Remember, there's no tier 1 turret here for XQW, and he's pushed forward.
Oh, he has to be a bit careful. Has been spotted.
It's going to be a big
They're now moving in. Come on. Go for it. Oh, beautiful ultimate, though. Very important to use the Empress Divide there. That actually ends up being enough to force them away. I guess they just wanted to get out the ultimate. Maybe force something here from him. And now they're looking to go for the resets.
I lied. It is not going to be a big fight. They're actually just going to let him scoot away and do nothing.
Well, you know, sometimes that's better. Doesn't hurt your eyes as much. Depends on who plays, but in this case, I think, hey, maybe we're good without the fight. Maybe
that may be
okay.
true, you know. But Dragon spawning now in about 5 seconds time, already live as a smite from Climber just yoinks that from under the nose of Zika. 2 items for both of our AD carries, but I will highlight that Savior has got Infinity Edge plus Yuntal, which is a very AD heavy build, so if he's able to auto attack, will do a lot more damage. But again, LNG, they've got this Jinx, so finding that first kill with the Nautilus means they can start to snowball through the fights.
But the Dragon is melting quite fast as the Death Charge is coming through again from OVO. But the Solar Flare hits into the backline and now they're going in. Can they connect on this with the Cyclone coming in from the side as well? They're doing some damage. Look at Fish One. Fish One's almost untouched. He can just fire away straight from the backline. But in the end, it's a double kill for Zika. Fish One now has to be a little careful. But he ends up going for the triple. And Fish One will not end up actually getting the kill. That's a little sad.
Haichao's got him.
Maybe Haichao is going to, you know, come on. End this misery. End it for us. Thank you. Thank you very much. That's the ace. Wow.
Plus Leandries take down the Yorick and LNG ace LGD. 4-12, a 4k gold lead. And despite the fact that we've got 2 item Azir, 2 item Sivir, that's not enough to get through Zika and Xiaofang in these teamfights, causing so much chaos, just making the lives of their carries absolutely miserable. It's a good engage from OVO to start this off, but double depth charge onto the backline, and look at the follow-up. Look at Renekton in this team fight. He teleports into the mix of 5 people. Xiaofang as well, straight on top of the Azir. The Renekton straight on top of the Sivir. And in terms of late game output, Sasi not able to do nearly as much to a Jinx on this Yorick as you would have hoped, as really any of LNG, or LGD rather, would like to see.
For me, it's also a factor of how long Fish One was actually untouched in that fight. For the entirety of the first 3 kills, no one touched him. Which is insane, because that's exactly the type of front to back, the type of reset play you want to go for with the Jinx. So, honestly, very nicely played by LNG. They did a great job at that, but you gotta give it to Zika, you mentioned it. Now we're looking at another fight coming through. Solar Flare doesn't quite hit. And the Death Charge again hitting onto the backline, straight onto XQW, which is the target you want to hit. Of course, the damage output. He should be safe, but there comes Zika. Zika picks up the kill. Fish One as well in the mixes again. And this is, I mean, honestly, it's becoming a crazy snowball for LNG. Look at the gold. It exploded. We're talking 5k gold lead at this point. Maybe LGD can look for something more with, of course, the Atakan doing some decent damage. Maybe LNG have overforced it. Maybe LNG have gone too far because LGD are coming back to clean up the
Xiaofang
mess that
still has
LNG
smite.
left.
He's going to get zoned away.
There is no way.
He can't even get in.
Oh.
So LGD here finding a little bit of a reprieve, and around that top side, just giving an advantage. And actually, with the Baron being live, they're going to look to double on up on those neutral objectives. Their jungler's dead, but there's no vision for LNG. They know that this is going down. You can see the Spidey senses are tingling. Zap from Fish1 will confirm it. They can't finish this. Climber has to get here. He's got the Hex Gates to get over, but Fish1's getting zoned. He can't keep Wing over. Xiaofang needs to get in.
Oh, super big death rocket coming through, but the solar flare connects nicely on this one.
Stolen!
He's going for the steal. He gets the Baron. He pays with his life. But I think that's okay. Man, oh man, the LPL is alive and well. This is, yeah. What did I actually expect to happen, honestly?
And LNG go from having a really solid position in the game to then losing out on the Atacon, to looking like they're going to lose out on the Baron as well, to getting rescued by their jungler. This all looks really good to start off with LNG. They find the engage onto XQW, they force him to hop over the wall, get out of the fight. But once again, look at where Zika is. He's causing so much carnage in the front line, and he's able to find 2. But this is where LNG overreach. They've been whittled away by the Atacon, and Savior, XQW, and Sasi are all full HP. OVO goes in here. He gets taken down by one ricochet just on the back half of this, and Haichao falls as well, which means that actually LGD are able to take this, and Xiaofang, I don't know how he gets enough damage down. You can see that LGD, they stop DPS, but he gets it with a Q and a smite, and I think maybe the combination, as we go back to live, YCX is dead.
Oh yeah, that's such an LPL type thing. Replay straight into next team fight. It's kind of split, as we can see the River
Sasi
being an entirely different play here, but it's already good killings for Haichao. Picks up the double kill. Now Sasi is dead. He was wall coming through, but I think it should be just fine. This is Soul. This is the Soul if they get it.
50 seconds and TP is available for Sasi. It's about what LNG want to do. They want to reset and be in a good position, or are they looking for more?
Ooh, beautiful. Let's try something with that Empress Divide. Doesn't really do too much, but the damage output is there. Maybe now, with Xavier being actually, you know, a damage dealer, they can turn it around, but he ends up going down himself, and they have to be careful here. LGD now not full numbers for the Drake that's coming up, and it's the Soul. You want to contest it, but is there even a chance for you to do so?
They traded 2 for 2, but they lost both of their carries. XQW and Savior are both dead. With teleports available and the Baron buffed recalls, you expect Haichao to be able to get out and back onto the maps. This is how this engage started. I mean, YCX, I think he's looking for Fish1 here, but ends up connecting onto OVO, gets flicked back under the turret, and just absolutely in no man's land. Xiaofang knows that he can compete with Sasi in this fight, as he's just, you know, really not too strong on the Yorick, unfortunately. He's had a bit of a stinker game again, and finds himself caught out, taken down, 0-4-0 on the Yorick, not really having the impact that you would like. But remember, XQW, he's going to have to TP in. Savior has to walk from base. This is still a 5v4 in favor of LNG.
Let's see if they can actually end up doing it. Drake has been started.
Yes,
we're looking at Zika. Zika is moving in from the other side. He's trying to close the gap. He will be spotted in a dry bush now as he goes in. They're going forward. They're hitting the backline. Savior is down once more. The hook connects, but the Drake is not the target here. They want to play the fight first. Climber gets a kill back on the other side of the fight, but it does look as if Xiaofang and Zika are doing God's work here. They pick up the kills. It's another ace, and then they go towards the dragon. Pick up the Soul, and I have bad news for you, chat. I think your channel points might be gone. Because I fear you made the wrong decision.
Sasi tries to mark Zika, but what is an Undertaker to a Crocodile who is an absolute Goliath in this game? As Sasi goes to mark Zika, he just slices through him, dashes onto Savior, and in tandem with Xiaofang as well, the timing and the collapse from LNG is so perfectly coordinated that LNG can't lose this fight. Look at Zika here, he just walks up, walks through Sasi, doesn't even bother. As soon as the Dark Procession comes down, he dashes over, and at this point, Xiaofang's already, you know, in the backline, wreaking havoc. I don't really think that Zika did anything to the Azir, it was all the Wukong. as he's able to do damage into that backline, and we don't even get to see what happens on the front side of this fight. Just knowing that Haichao and Fish1 can quite handily deal with a Leona, deal with a Xin Zhao at this stage in the game. And now with a Soul at their backs, a top tier 2 under fire maybe, but Sasa, what are you doing?
Oh, we just wall coming through. Sasa has to flash over it just to stay alive underneath the turret, but that turret is dropping very, very low with the new wave coming in. They are looking to push it further. They will take it down. They also have a wave coming in through the mid lane, so they are definitely, you know, building up the threats all across the map. Baron in about a minute. So that should be the next target for LNG here to actually open up the enemy base. Because I think without it, it's still going to be a bit harder to play. But look at this Jinx. Jinx with the flippin' Hextech Soul. That's disgusting. Disgusting. 3, 4, 16. Holy cow.
Fish1 may not have got a lot of the kills, but he's certainly been contributing to these fights as, you know, zap after zap typically landing, and the Flame Chompers have been doing a lot of work when buying space. But for the LGD side, you know, looking at how easy it is for them to play these fights, you always have to remember they've got a Zia Sivir. You can't count them out, even 10k gold down. A Sivir, when this Mortal Reminder gets finished, is going to do work across this LNG roster. When XQW finishes that Void Staff, he'll have a good burst of damage to go down. It's all about the fact that LNG so far have done so well at focusing those carries, have done such a good job at isolating the Sivir, at isolating the Azir, and making the rest of this LGD composition feel effectively useless.
LGD, they have to find a way to get something back. Maybe here. Another nice flash by Fish1, but we get the Solar Flare. Now they can connect to the backline. They will get the Jinx. That's such an important piece of gold for them. The Crescent Guard already used. So much invested for that one kill. They just lost 4 ultimates for that.
I mean, that's still worth it. If they can get the Baron off of this, absolutely. But Xiaofang's got a flank. Zika's coming from one side, the Wukong from another, and XQW is in the middle of this pincer that's trying to be set up by LNG. They don't know that the Wukong's here, though. They're trying to get eyes on before they start this, and I think they've recognized that, yeah, Baron's just a bit too much. We can't walk into that choke. They'll have to settle for a tier 1 turret. They'll have to settle for a reprieve in this game. A massive shutdown onto the Jinx, and Fish1 using both summoner spells still goes down. And it's LNG who, you know, they stumble at that crucial moment. Fish1 gets picked.
It was supposed to be over. I feel the same way, Chad. I feel the same way. It was supposed to be over, but we're still in Group Nirvana and we're still in the LPL. Is it ever really over? That is the question you gotta ask yourselves. For the moment, LGD find a pick, but it's not quite enough to set up for the Baron here. And now with everyone again on the map, I think LNG are looking to get this Baron for themselves. They haven't lost it. That's the good news.
But they can repeat ganks and go for plays now onto Fish1. He's got no flash, just on the hunt plus a climber flash. You know, that's enough to find a knock-up if you've landed W, or even if you look for this Jinx, the connection with no flash is so much easier to find. But now LNG forcing the issue. They're looking to try and play this double off angle with Ovio on one side, Haichao on the other. Wall now to stop their aggression.
Beautiful Weaver's Wall. That Weaver's Wall is beautifully placed, but doesn't end up being enough as Zika is getting chucked down a little low, but he's going straight into the backline once more.
Gets the Azir!
Ends up going down, and it's the Zika show.
And he lives!
He gets the kills, he lives, and it's another good one here for LNG. They don't actually end up taking the Baron. They are looking to end the game right here, right now, and they are looking to pick up their first win in the series in Group Nirvana, this split. And I gotta say, it was surprisingly convincing with all the stumbles, all the tosses and turns. They ended up dominating this game too. And they deserved this win. So GG's to them, and I feel very sorry for everyone who just lost their channel points.
LNG 2-0 LGD in Group Nirvana. Your 0-5 team find their first victory in Group Nirvana. This is the turnaround that they need in that second round robin to put themselves in a bright spot and to maybe play for one of those play-in positions as we look at the remainder of this season in split number 3. LGD with a couple of relatively uncharacteristic missteps, but honestly, it's the LNG solo laners that come up huge in these team fights. It's Zika on one side, Haichao on the other, and I think Haichao this time around with just a little bit more consistency looked much more convincing on the Talia. Zika 10-0 and 11 on the Renekton, getting into the backline, one-shotting YCX and XQW as well. Both of them just completely obliterated, making sure that the Renekton not only gets his access to the target, but stays alive as well, like playing on the very limits, the very edge there for the Renekton.
I gotta say, for me, it was again Zika changing the outcome of the team fights, right? It was similar to game 1. As soon as he enters, as soon as he finds a way straight into the backline, taking out especially also the Sivir and of course the Azir, everything turned around. It was so much more playable for them in that very moment, and I mean, I was joking, you know, in the break I was like, ooh, am I going to witness the first LNG win? Here we are. I gotta be honest, didn't expect it, but I'm quite happy with it. On the other hand, let's quickly talk about LGD, because something definitely went wrong there. What is the biggest takeaway for you? What do they have to work on going to the next series?
I do think that Sasi in this series really underperformed. Typically, we've seen him be quite a, I'll say just stable top laner. He doesn't ever seem to strike as one of those top laners who's going to go out and solo carry you the game, but not typically lose you a game quite as maybe blatantly as game number 1. And in game number 2, I think it was a bit too team-wide, the issue that we ended up seeing. It did feel like the Yorick didn't fit, right? They were looking for a blind pick top laner that they looked for, and Yorick was their answer. But then we look at the rest of the composition that they ended up drafting. They've got Azir, they've got Sivir. What they need is a massive front line. They don't need a third split or a split pusher to look out on that side lane, or somebody who's not going to be able to find access to the back line or even just peel their team.
Yeah, 100%. LGD therefore, of course, now 3-3. I think they're still in the middle pack of the group, which is okay, but they gotta be careful, because we've talked about it a little bit in the group standings, because there is a clear top spot, and everything behind that is relatively close.
Yeah, I mean, coming out of the end of the round robin, we had a very nice cascade effect, really, of 5-0 through to 0-5 with each of our teams. And we had a very distinct hierarchy. But LGD and LNG have now just thrown caution to that. They've removed that from contention. As, you know, LNG now starting to find a bit of a bounce back, and as LGD still in a good spot for play-ins, but a loss versus LNG will not only knock their confidence, but also is a win that they would have been expected to take in the Group Nirvana, and the fact that they've not done that, it is going to cost them pretty dearly.
100%. They are still, for the moment, ahead of TT, but that can, of course, change with the next series coming up. Let's see how that's going to go. For now, I gotta say, I'm still super happy for LNG. I think it's a very tough spot to be in, especially bringing in these new players. And even though we gotta criticize the hooks in Game 2 a little bit, maybe a little much, OVO did a decent job, right?
There were a couple of really good picks, and I think that, you know, the starting to the team fights where you just need somebody to press Q on Nautilus and start a team fight, like he did that, right? You know, the hooks that we saw, they weren't astronomical, they weren't game-changing, but they started the fights and they got the ball rolling, which, you know, in terms of the support, sometimes that is just all you need. It might be a little bit of a shame that coming in for the bot side, you know, they're this new bot lane in Fish 1 and OVO, that they don't have the turnaround performance that's what they need, that it's what LNG needed. But if it's just a little bit of shoring up and even just a bit more consistency down in that bot lane to allow for Zika and for Haichao to pop off, then maybe that's just what they need, and maybe that's just good enough.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. We can see in the gold graph very well how the snowball just kept on rolling, but I do gotta feel for Xavier a little bit here, because he was there for all the kills. He was dealing the most damage in the game, and it just did not make a difference. It's gotta sting. Yeah,
and you know, you feel bad for Xavier, but equally, he's playing Sivir, which is so difficult, versus Wukong, Nautilus, and Renekton, like all of these frontliners that are so easily able to get access to you, and you've only got one spell shield as well.
Yeah.
You're just sort of thinking, well, what is a Sivir supposed to do? You know, you try and hit the Renekton, he dices on you. You try and hit the Nautilus, he hooks you, he ults you. You try and hit the Wukong again, Nimbus Strike, knock up. You're getting owned at every single juncture, and there's nothing really that you can say or do until you get to that 5-item spike, and then maybe you've got enough opportunity to start DPSing them back. But even still, as you look through these highlights, you know, we were criticizing OVO for some of his hooks. In the highlight packages, though, you can see the majority of them, they're hitting, they're doing what they need to. And like we say, even if they are just starting up fights, and even if they are just being a little bit more consistent and getting Zika into positions where he can pop off in team fights, that's all that LNG need. This organization for this year hasn't been, we're testing out this new bot lane duo to try and make them the stars of the LPL. They just need players who can let Zika thrive.
Yeah, 100%. Which, of course, brings up the question again, is Zika your player of the game once more? Or is someone else in his spot? Yeah.
He really does have to be, because it's him or Haichao once again. There's argument maybe for Xiaofang, because I think he got the ball rolling early on, but just his impact in team fights, you know, Zika, you can't not give him the MVP for this series.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta agree with that. Maybe chat, if you have a different opinion, make sure to write it down, because I would love to hear it. But definitely Zika, again, game changer. Whenever he joins the fight, things just look entirely different. Things just become more and more playable. Beautiful flash here, highlighted once more. And I mean, look, I liked the creativity on the side of LGD, looking for something, you know, trying to do something with the Empress Divide, but the amount of times Empress Divide was actually flashed by someone and then did not have any impact is just sad.
Yeah, there's this you know, weird curve of Azir as to what you should always be using your ulti for. In team fights, in the late game, you want to use it for peel. Early on, you want to be using it to try and make plays as well. But in this series and in this game as well, XQW, during the times when he was looking to try and make plays, people, like you say, they were flashing it. And, you know, in this late game team fight, let's look at how the Emperor's Divide goes down. Oh, well, actually, we've already died before anything actually happens, and that just does feel really rough. Yeah,
100%, as we're now looking forward to see who the player of the game, or like player of the series rather, is going to be. I think Zika is a good bet. He has been playing phenomenally today. Definitely, you know, had the impact that the team needed him to have in order to pick up their first win.
And it may be a little boring to get the same guy MVP for both games, but like he's earned it.
Come on,
you know?
Yeah, I mean, it was him in the end. I think Fishone actually had a decent game as well. We talked about it. Did not get most of the kills, but had a relatively high kill participation anyways. And I know there's always this discussion of, do we give the MVP to the player who gets the kills or to the one who sets the kills up? You know, that's always a bit of a question mark.
I'm always in the conversation of whoever it is that has the most impact, and it's the large reason why you won the game. And I think, like, gold difference at end being plus 8,000, let that sink in. Like, an 8k gold lead over your top laner is insane.
It's hard. It's hard if you're on the other end of that one.
Yeah.
I mean, the Yorick just wasn't our favorite pick to begin with, I think, but Zika definitely did a great job at making his pick work. The Renekton was an absolute machine. He had the gold lead, he had the kills, he had the kill participation. Amazing stuff. But that, of course, is the first series of the day done, which gives us a second to breathe, you know, stay hydrated, go to the bathroom. You guys get some snacks, because we're not done with Group Nirvana just yet. There's more action to come, and I'm sure it's going to be adventurous. So definitely stay tuned, and we'll be right back for you.